Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, and it is time for a preview of Rafael Nadal versus Novak Djokovic in the 2021 Roland Garros semifinals, a rematch of last year's final. And I wouldn't say that this feels like a de facto final, given the quality of the participants on the other side of the draw, but it very well could be the match that we remember, and it very well could be the legacy of this year's tournament. So, this is meeting number 58 between these two. It is a rivalry that on paper is the best in the history of men's tennis, given just the volume of matches they've played, the magnitude and the importance of those matches, and just the numbers of instant classics that they have accumulated, along with, I'd say, revolutionizing a certain style of the modern game that really brought it to another level physically. With that being said, they know each other's games so well, and at this point, a trend has emerged in the rivalry where they've been unable to beat each other on their favorite surfaces. Nadal has not beaten Djokovic on a hard court or a grass court, for that matter, since the 2013 U.S. Open. Meanwhile, Djokovic has not beaten Nadal on clay since Rome in 2016. So let's get into how Djokovic may be able to crack that code and how Nadal needs to continue the patterns that have been so advantageous and favorable to him ever since I would say the recent era of their careers, because it did feel like 2017 was kind of a part two, or maybe even a part three or a part four, when you look at the progression of the big three, where Djokovic comes back and so does Nadal in 2017, and they're kind of transformed versions of themselves. So let's get into it. And I want to start with a story from the other night when I was out, and someone came up to me and was like, "Gil, this is incredible. You know, Nadal, he's still the favorite. You know, he's still right up there at Roland Garros every single year. How is this still happening?" And if I'm asked a question like that in this forum with you guys on YouTube, I might give a long answer with nuances and complexities and different, bullet points. But when I'm out and someone asks me that in a social setting, I am not going to give them a 1 to 2 minute monologue. So it actually forced me to give a very, very simplistic answer just by the nature of the situation. And it was kind of enlightening to me because I'm not always asked to come up with those simplistic answers. So I thought for a second and I said, the forehand is the forehand, and it's always been the forehand. The serve has changed. It's gotten better. The legs have changed, not as fast anymore as he used to be when he was young. The tactics have changed since Carlos Moya came into the picture. Things have changed, but wait, Nadal's still at the top. Well, that hasn't changed. What else hasn't changed? The forehand. The forehand is the forehand. It always has been, and it is a massive, massive key when these two meet on clay. And there are a lot of examples of that, and it plays out point by point by point. But then you could look at like the fifth set of the 2013 semifinal that they played, Nadal and Djokovic, and just look at what Nadal's forehand did to Djokovic on the court in that fifth set. It was absolute carnage. So that's one example. But then I also think that last year's final is an example of what Nadal's forehand can do in this matchup and against everyone at Roland Garros. And just, it is such a unique and valuable weapon on court Philippe Chatrier, and that was my answer. So with that in mind, I want to get into the specifics of how the Nadal forehand has affected this matchup in different ways. And I want to start with the short rally dominance by Nadal. Nadal is able to neutralize Djokovic's serve and forehand far more often than Djokovic is able to neutralize Nadal's serve and forehand. And that's a matter of, in my opinion, less so the serve and the return itself, but more so just the pure potency and the consistency of that first forehand. Excuse me. Nadal has beaten Djokovic in rallies lasting 0 to 4 shots very, very handedly in 2 straight meetings on clay now. So it was 53-25 in last year's French Open final. And when they met in Rome a couple weeks ago in that final, it was 50-36. So Djokovic doing slightly better there. The scoreline was much more balanced, especially because Djokovic took a dominant second set. But 2 matches in a row now where that hasn't even been close. And that is where the majority of rallies are going to be played in any tennis match, unless you have Sara Errani against Sara Perez Somariba. It's going to be mostly 0 through 4 shots. So that has been a real key. So let's also talk about how Nadal returns, how he serves, because he's clearly getting the better of that dynamic. And it's not just the forehand, but a lot of it is the forehand and the racket speed, the difference in the racket speed, the RPM, which gives Nadal just more heaviness, more weight, and also safety. So Nadal hits into big targets on his forehand. He has lots of net clearance, big targets, but it's so fast, so violent, so spinny, and it's so good at creating and generating its own pace that it's safe offense, and that way he can repeat it also. So if the first one is neutralized and he's so good with his footwork, finding another forehand and another forehand and another forehand, that he can do it over and over again if the first one or the second one isn't good enough. And he's also developed, amazing finishing ability at the net. So when it comes to the serve and the return as a singular shot, well, on the return, what Nadal does is he stands deep. He lifts the ball generally high over the net with a considerable topspin and lots of loop, and that gives him time to recover his court position. He likes to hit it up the middle to not give his opponent an angle to work with. So it's up the middle. It's pretty slow. It's pretty spinny. It gives Nadal time to recover to the middle, and then he gets ready to neutralize. And his movement on clay is just really, really great. And of course, he defends with his racket skills far better than any other surface when you look at what he's able to do on clay. When it comes to the serve, he likes to hit 2 serves primarily, but there's really 3 in the arsenal. Most of his serves is a wide slice serve to Novak's backhand. And on the what makes that serve effective is this. It doesn't necessarily finish the point. And yes, on the ad side, it drags Novak off the court. But that's not what I actually think is so effective about it. What's so effective about Nadal's slice serve to Novak's backhand or any righty's backhand is how difficult it is to get that return to Nadal's backhand. If you are on the deuce side, you need to hit an inside-out backhand return. That's the most difficult return in tennis, in my opinion. Inside-out backhand return. It takes perfect timing. When the ball is coming 120 miles per hour, a little bit less than that on average, I'm exaggerating, but when the ball is coming triple digits at you, to have the timing to hit that inside out on the backhand side, incredibly difficult to do. Now, let's go to the ad side. That's the deuce side. On the ad side, you're pulled way off the court. So if you hit down the line and it bleeds towards the middle of the court, well, now you're off the court. You've hit to the short part of the court, and Nadal's cross-court backhand or inside-out forehand, it's wide open. So when you're off the court, you want to buy yourself time, and you're going to do less running, and you're less likely to be put on the defensive if you go cross-court or middle with that, which is to the Nadal weapon. It plays into his hands. Not to mention, it seems very small margin. It's trying to get it into a sliver, trying to go down the line on the return. Once again, more difficult to time, very hard to do. That's why 70% of Nadal's serves go to the Novak backhand to set up the forehand. But then he doesn't do it over and over and over again, where Djokovic can really sit on it, get the rhythm, and crush the backhand returns. He then mixes in the flat serve to Novak's forehand, which is supposed to be that damaging serve. That's where he'll get the aces. That's where he'll get the service winners. That's where he'll get Novak lunging for it and getting a weak floating return back. But it's the changeup. It's also the surprise factor. It's the 70-30 and that's the 30%. Then the other serve he's been mixing in is the body forehand serve, which just slices into the right hip of Novak to try to make that forehand return uncomfortable. And he hits that serve on the ad side, and it actually gets Novak's weight moving the wrong direction because he's trying to move out of the way and hit the forehand as I move away from the mic so you can barely hear me. And that also helps Nadal's +1 game. So that's how he serves. That's how he returns. And then he has the more potent and consistent damaging offensive forehand behind it. And the result has been domination by Rafa in points 0 through 4 shots. If you're a Novak fan listening to this, believe me, I'm going to get to some adjustments that maybe Novak can try to make. So don't get too nervous. Now let's talk about the baseline dynamic. The baseline dynamic, Rafa's forehand still represents the easiest path to damage in a neutral baseline rally, but Djokovic knows that. And he's not going to rely on hitting his heavy, or I wouldn't call him heavy, but his hard, penetrating cross-court backhands to the Nadal forehand. He's not going to do that on this surface because it doesn't have the same effect. And Nadal is able to hit his forehand a lot better, and Djokovic's backhand is just less damaging. That has a lot to do with the fact that Djokovic's backhand is flat, relatively, and Nadal's forehand has so much RPM. And when the ball slows down, Nadal can easier change direction down the line on the forehand to get out of that pattern. So the baseline dynamic is that instead of hitting hard cross-court backhands, Djokovic will look to pin Nadal in his backhand corner with heavy cross-court forehands. And that has been the pattern that's been the most effective pattern against Nadal for Novak, especially in the period of time from 2016 to 2011, where Djokovic accumulated, I believe it is 7 wins over Rafa Nadal in the best-of-3 format and 1 in the best-of-5 format. But also it's been a pattern that Dominic Thiem has gone to against Nadal, once again in the best-of-3. Stefano Tsitsipas executed it in Madrid. If you can just force Nadal to hit backhands in a rather defensive light, and you kind of go strength, the forehand strength into Nadal's backhand, and that's how you generate short balls. That's where you get your opportunities to attack. It's tough because Nadal's backhand can be very good and doesn't miss very often, but that is the desired pattern of play for Novak and most who have had success against Nadal on clay. And Nadal might accept that pattern, but if he doesn't accept that pattern, he'll want to change direction. He'll want to hit a looping backhand down the line or a slice backhand down the line because, he wants to affect Novak's contact point and also change the pattern, entice Novak into hitting that next backhand cross-court into the Nadal weapon. And he's very often successful in that. To get out of that pattern, he goes down the line to entice the cross-court backhand, and now it's back on Nadal's forehand. And Rafa's just so good at that. So that's kind of how the baseline dynamic plays out. So let's talk about, can Novak change some of these things? And what can he do? Well, last year, Djokovic, I think, was having a lot of trouble hitting through Nadal's defense, but also other players as well on the surface. But against Nadal, he really flattened out his strokes and played really aggressively, I think, in that final. And it worked in the third set for a bit, but it just seemed very low margin, and he ultimately had some loose games. The game at 5-all where Nadal broke was a loose game by Novak, and it kind of felt like that was inevitable. He also tried to use the drop shot, right? If you can't hit through Rafa, let's hit under him. And Nadal's drop shot retrieval, in my opinion, first of all, he moved up his court position to try to defend the drop shot. I also think that Nadal's drop shot retrieval is maybe the best I've ever seen. He has so many options with that shot. He's excellent at redropping. He has the short angle. He has the punch deep. He volleys well. His overhead is great. So it's a very difficult play to work on Rafa. So Nadal, Djokovic's ways to try to hit through Nadal did not work last year. He needs to go back to the drawing board. It's going to start with this, and I think this is maybe the number one key, certainly on the return game. He needs to get more returns to Nadal's backhand. He has to, and I think he knows that. The question is how. He needs to make a drastic change because, of course, he knows that. And he has known that. He's just not able to do it. And he's missing a lot of returns. He's missing a lot of returns because he's trying to make a good enough return to protect himself from Rafa's forehand. And the numbers in the Rome final, last year's Roland Garros final, too many missed returns by Novak. And most of them are missed backhand returns. So he needs to figure something out here. Should he move back? Should he move back, take a fuller swing, and hit to smaller targets on the backhand side for Nadal? Should he move up and kind of take more risk, maybe go bigger off the returns? Should he stop trying to hit his returns deep down the middle? And should he just target every return into Nadal's backhand corner? And even though it's a difficult return, just try to make it. And go for the sidelines. Maybe alternate going for the sidelines instead of returning down the middle. I don't know, but he's going to need to tinker with his return strategy and his return position. He also needs to improve his own +1 play, his own serve +1 play. Maybe he goes to net more. Maybe he serves and volleys a little bit, but approaches behind his aggression into the net to try to combat Nadal's defense, which is really great with the extra space on Chatrier. He loves to use all of that space in the back of the court. It's a big court, and he uses it. Should he be more patient and just try to wear Nadal down and hit those heavy, safe balls into Nadal's backhand corner and just extend rallies and try to wear him down physically? I think that's a viable strategy against Nadal, is to try to get to his legs and make it so that, he's making more mistakes. He's not serving as well because he's tired. So the last thing is having a plan for Nadal's pattern-changing backhand down the line. I think Novak should come into this match with a really, really thought-out plan of how he's going to handle that shot, because it can't just be, I'm going to then trade my cross-court backhand and give Nadal exactly what he wants. It can't be like that. He needs to decide either I'm going to be stubborn and go back down the line, and that was Andrei Rublev's plan when Rublev beat him in Monte Carlo. Rublev was just, okay, I'm not going to hit that cross court. I know you want me to. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to go back down the line. And it doesn't matter what you do. I'm just going back down the line. So I think Novak should either do that, or he should go cross court with intention. And he should actually say, okay, if you're going to go down the line passively, I am going to go into the open court hard and aggressive. And I'm not just going to trade my backhand cross court. I'm going to build with it. I'm going to finish the points with it, or probably not finish, but build and be more aggressive. So he needs a plan. He needs a plan for that shot. And that is my list of things that Novak really needs to turn around if he wants to change this matchup and how it's been going. Lastly, I'll hit on the conditions. Djokovic should find easier offense in what should be warmer, higher bouncing conditions. Now, it's slated for a 5:30 start, so it's not going to be hot. It's not going to be middle of the day. That'll be the Zverev Tsitsipas semifinal. But it will be warmer and higher bouncing than last year. Hawkeye has confirmed that in Nadal matches. So Djokovic should find easier offense. That's good, but I think Nadal should also be able to find easier offense, and I think he has the ability to break Novak's contact point when targeting the backhand, which I think is very valuable for Nadal when he plays Djokovic on clay. So I don't think the conditions either way really swing this matchup. I think the clay is clay. It's never going to be fast. It's never going to be low bouncing. That's what Novak would want. It's not going to be that. It doesn't matter if it's cold outside or hot outside or anything. It's just going to be what it's going to be. So, I don't think the conditions will have much of an effect. Here's my prediction. All of the adjustments for Novak, they're all what ifs. They're all possibilities, potentials. We might not see them. They might not happen. And if we do see them, if he does employ them, they might not work. They might work. They might not. That's how adjustments are. You don't really know. Nadal would, have a counter or not. But that's what I'm trying to say. We don't know. Nadal's advantages are certainties. They are very much rooted, not in tactics, not in decisions. They've played each other 57 times. They know each other's games very well. Nadal's advantages are based on skill set and attributes. Same goes for Djokovic on the quicker, lower bouncing surfaces. So my prediction is Nadal in 4 sets. I wouldn't be shocked if it were straight sets. After the semifinals, I will be going live, so make sure you join me for a live post-match show after this match. It is the second semifinal. I can't wait for it. Meeting number 58 between Nadal and Djokovic. Enjoy the match. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.